Welcome to the first episode of Video Game Photography. In this series, I will be exploring my favorite games while trying to find the perfect screenshots. Hopefully, I can convey the amount of respect I have for the artists that create video games. I figured a good starting point for this series would be GM Construct. Garry's mod started originally as a Half-Life mod that released December 24th, 2004, only 38 days after Half-Life 2 was officially released. Garry's mod is pretty important to the internet as a whole. There's been a lot. Garry's mod has meant a lot to a lot of people. To start off with my photographic adventure, I took a picture of some graffiti that you might see every time you boot up Garry's mod. You may have seen it hundreds of thousands of times. But, you never really dive deep into why it was placed there or for what reason. And for my second photo, I decided I would just sort of go around the map in no real order, just looking for interesting stuff that most people may not even care about. For example, this Lambda logo. Lambda, of course, being the symbol for Source and Half-Life 2. What's interesting about the Lambda logo is that it glows. I use my flashlight here to get a better shot and make it more cinematic. Of course, first thing everyone does when they get to this map is no-clip. And when you no-clip, you eventually find not only the dark room, but the hidden room where they hold the credits. In this room, there's a couple props, most importantly the doll, and it's dressed as if somebody was living here. The furniture, the artwork, the graffiti, 13 being, of course, the version number for GM Construct, the newest version. This space is a reminder of how Source games are inherently creepy. They don't evoke a sense of relaxation. In fact, it's a phenomenon that people more willing than me have gone into deep research exploring. It's actually a reason why the back rooms were so popular in the Source engine. The Source engine was created by Valve for Half-Life 2. Before that, they used Gold Source. It's a proprietary engine that they have continued to update and expand upon. GM Construct is an iconic symbol, almost. It's the imagery. It's like Windows XP, the Windows background bliss. I guarantee if you show a random person GM Construct, they would recognize it. Maybe not from where or any particular reason. The water section of this map takes up almost a quarter, and I feel I've never really used it for anything, and it's more of a part you don't really look into. I thought it would be cool to get some pictures of the buildings through the water ripples. Looking up, it makes them almost imposing. This camera mod I'm using is actually really amazing. It lets you take a picture, like a screenshot, and it lets you control pretty much everything. You're able to change the FOV, the tilt, roll, and most other things a camera would have. It also lets you change the size to whatever you want. So you can take massive images at incredibly high resolution. And it does this without limiting your performance, really, because it sets your screen resolution to the preferred resolution for, I believe, 1 frame, and then it takes that as the screenshot. You can also apply effects and control what the encoder is. Underwater has always been a source of terror in video games as a whole. In real life, underwater is almost infinite. It feels like it will trap you. I don't know if you've ever been to the ocean, but the feeling you have when you're out in the tides, waiting around, and when you look down, you can't see the bottom. As a photographer, I'm always looking out for interesting subjects, interesting angles, leading lines, rule of thirds, that kind of thing. I don't know if I would call myself a very good photographer, but I know what it takes to make a good photo. I've always been fascinated with this roof texture. I can't really tell what it's meant to be, but it's always struck me. I've always walked over it and felt like I could bite right into it, like it's a chocolate bar. The lack of movement and dark corners in GM Construct is a source of anxiety that really you don't ever get over. The map looks like it should hold life, but there is no signs. There's just the remains of fake facades that are buildings. The empty shells that realistically don't have a great purpose. Zooming in this much makes the image feel almost without perspective. It creates an unnatural feeling that's only multiplied by the source engine itself. Looking outside the borders of the map, you can see how the quality drastically decreases, almost jarringly. However, I've never noticed it when playing the map myself. The pictures I most like from this shoot come from the ones where they bring a sense of mystery, almost horror. The shadows, the buildings, the nooks and crannies, ghosts and ghouls, goblins and fools. You know, it it draws your attention, makes you study, it makes you peer, look behind your back. It makes you alert to everything around you while your focus is entirely on the picture. Don't look behind you. These rooms have a texture that makes it feel like someone was rushed to finish this building, but never quite got there. The unpainted walls and a lack of carpeting create a sense of abandonment. This corridor in particular has always scared me. For some reason, 90-degree turns are an innate sense of fear. Okay, this shot was just really like sick. Like, who put that spotlight there? These buildings look like they have many stories, many rooms, but they seem uncanny. Nothing about them makes sense when you look deeper. In this shot, I thought it would be cool to get some leading lines into the sun. Leading lines are a great way to focus a viewer's attention. They naturally make the viewer's eyes wander. The eyes follow along them, going towards the subject. These textures are something you never really pay attention to. You always look and go, yeah, that's a wall, and not, where is the source of this image? Where or when was this image taken or created? How many hours of somebody's life did they spend to make this image? This shot, I thought, turned out pretty good. They used the building as leading lines, also leading lines in the background of the other building, to create a sense of verticality. The sun being just at the top of the building makes it feel like maybe, I never noticed these footprints or perhaps tire tracks going into the building. The human eye is fantastic at picking out patterns. It can see something from nothing. I don't know why a grate would be in this room. Perhaps this is a garage, hinted by the tire tracks. I don't remember when I came up with this idea, but I always thought it would be really enjoyable to simply go through a game and observe. It would be a shame if there wasn't somebody to look into or pay attention to or really just research the amount of effort and time that went into creating a game. With photography, you're able to step back and pay attention to the details. By zooming out here, it makes the door look almost unreachable. Makes you feel trapped. But it also makes you feel optimistic, knowing that you can see it, knowing that you will make it. I've never really explored the dark room. You always know it's there. You always know its doors wide open, but you never know what's in there. when I was exploring this room, I didn't really understand its purpose. From the perspective of a citizen in this world, a Garry's Mod resident, who or why was this made for? From a gameplay point of view and a sandbox map, the Dark Room in GM Construct is just another testing area. Just another place to kill hundreds of climbers. Another place to blow up stuff and create new things. Another place to spawn hundreds of thousands of balls. For those of you that don't know, the rule of thirds is more of a guideline. It's more of a look on human nature. If you divide a photo or a screen, or really just your field of view, by three equally distant lines, vertically and horizontally, where those lines meet is where most people's attention gets drawn to. I don't really know why. I don't really understand it, but I do know that it works, and it's a powerful tool that filmmakers, photographers, artists, really anybody trying to get your attention will use. I've never noticed this light switch. I don't know why they would include it. I've never really noticed this light switch. The light room is a place to test out the tool gun. If you didn't know, you can use the color tool to change the color of the walls, change the material of the walls. It's a good room to get some green screen shots. I went over here to see if perhaps the light switch had a twin, but it appears it's alone in its quest to turn off and on the lights. The mirror room is another iconic part of GM Construct. It's a place that a lot of people have gone to. It's a place where you can see yourself without having to grab a camera or ask a friend if your character model changed. I believe reflections in source games are handled by literally rendering the game a second time. Reflections in source games was a major stepping stone in the technology of the time. Half-Life 2's water was considered the peak of what 3D computer games could do. It's considered photorealism, as almost like we had reached the top and there simply was nowhere to go. Looking into the mirror from this far away shows that you really are alone. Shows that there is nobody here besides you, maybe your friend, and maybe a couple of combine. I don't know why this divot is here, why they felt the need to expand this room. I do know it's a fantastic place to hide some spooky creatures. The perfectly flat 90-degree angles of this map are another reason that source games are uncanny. Source maps are created in the Hammer editor. The ambience within source games is something that you will instantly recognize, instantly know that it is a false sense of security. I never realized how remote the location of GM Construct was, how strange the construction is. The city of GM Construct, if you can even call it that, is a place where there are no roads, there are no people, there are no common conveniences or any real infrastructure. It's like if you tried to remember what your hometown looked like within a dream, only really knowing your neighborhood, only really picturing your small living space. Your brain can only take you so far. The rolling hills really speak to me. In fact, I've had many dreams where I look outside and instead of a street, maybe a car, all I see are perfectly uniform rolling green hills. The dreamlike nature of this map is something that really appeals to me. This building is really an example of this map as a whole. How it reaches towards almost normalcy, but falls short by displaying a false vision of what's really inside. I wonder often how many hours, even years, it took to lead to this map and me playing on it right now. From computer science as a whole to advances in 3D modeling, having to build out a game engine, having to model for that engine, having to texture for that engine, having to design the Foley for this game, to put in the work to put it all together, to spend even more time getting it out there and promoting it to an audience. To do this in a time where the internet was in its wild west. It's unfathomable. I never noticed that GM Construct is within a cube. If you look as I am, it is extremely rectangular. Looking in at it from out of bounds, no clipping, it's another uncanny experience. Out of bounds in source games has also interested me. The fact that you can just go on forever into a void of nothing, and that's it. There will be nothing, and you will never find anything. I never realized how far the grass extended. It seems almost pointless to have this much terrain out of view, out of sight, just for the background. Getting over this hill made me realize that it's bigger than GM Construct itself. It's almost like another flat grass. Most games use a skybox. This is a smaller area that is blown up and projected outside of the playable area. It helps create an illusion of scale. It also helps to paint a better picture of the world within this game. I've never really noticed this hotel with its incredibly large windows and out of scale door. I will never know who put that there, never know why they chose to. It's just a fact, and that's all it will be. If you didn't know, anything in the skybox will be blown up in size. For example, if you, let's say, were in the map right now, just in the spawn area, you would see a giant looking over and taking pictures of mismatched buildings and flying through the air. I think this overhead shot really captures the scale of the skybox. It also shows how the terrain was generated with what looks like noise, a common use for generating terrain. The use of noise in video games is another thing to look out for. What's interesting is that this skybox has its own skybox, which is really just itself. This creates an unimaginably large space just out of reach from the player. Stuck in GM construct, surrounded by walls. Originally, I wanted to write a script to really go in detail about my love and my respect for the people that create video games. But I simply could not put it down to paper. I found it incredibly difficult to write a video essay in a way that I thought would be enjoyable. And trying to get over that hurdle made it almost impossible to complete this video. I just hope that my live commentary will convince you, even if just a little bit, to appreciate the way art is created in general. Looking at this, I really do think this is a worthwhile series, and I really love making it. Let me know in the comments what game I should focus next, or if I should continue to Flatgrass. If you want the photos for any reason, you can find them on my Patreon. There they will be released at full resolution, and you can use them for whatever you want. I don't really care. If you want to support me, just subscribe and maybe share this video with somebody you know would like it. Thank you, and have a good day.